Are you feeling crummy? Are you starting to get a crust? Are you shooting flour over here? Have you been sitting on your lard all day? Well, then I am the item you've been waiting for. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, an insulting old turd, and this is the 150th episode extravaganza of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. And if there's one thing that you need to know about me, it's that when life gives me lemons, I make gingerbread men. But you know what? I am not the only person who is here for this crossover of epic proportions. No, who else is here with me?
Well, it's me, Hot Cookie Steve Guntley, and I'm not a hoe. I just needed the dough. This is the podcast about titty walls, total butt vomit, and fuck mutants. That's because this is the podcast about Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong, a searing drama about two Jewish immigrants struggling to integrate into the intolerant American culture of the late 1890s. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's Hester Street. Sorry, I get these confused a lot. No, this is the one with the evil bong and the killer cookie. So we are going to be talking about the crossover to end all crossovers on this show. And we have a very exciting guest joining us today. Who is here with us?
Oh, we sure do have an exciting guest today. And you might even say
already, I think.
I think we did. But you know what? She can do it because she's a little she-devil. And also, you know, I don't know if you know this about our guest, but she doesn't shut up. She grows up. And when she sees you, she fucks you up. Mm-hmm. I'm talking, of course, about Mary Beth McAndrews, who is a journalist and filmmaker. Recently, you've seen her work as the editor-in-chief at Dread Central. She also directed the 2025 rape revenge film Bystanders, and she's produced films like Ghost Game and For Sale by Exorcist. And I know this because I met her at a book panel. She has a found footage book about paranormal activity coming out next year or this year. I'm sorry, we're in 2026. I forgot for a second where we are. Anyway, this has been quite the protracted intro. Mary Beth, thank you so much for coming on with us.
You call that a long john? How about some crushed nuts, guys? I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you.
My biggest problem with this movie, obviously, is that he does that crushed nuts line and then does not do anything to the man's nuts.
I was so disappointed. He just hits him right in the head, and he's small enough. He's nut height. You know, I feel like it'd be so much easier to hit him in the nuts, but he doesn't.
Money on the table. Just money on the table. Leaving it right there.
There's enough tits in this movie. You at least could crush some nuts.
Come on. Equality. That's what we all are fighting for here.
That's what feminism is, guys. That's what feminism really is.
Absolutely.
So, Mary Beth, you were the one who put us in this situation.
I did.
You picked this movie. You said, I really want to do whatever the next Gingerdead Man or Evil Bong. You said Evil Bong, not Gingerdead Man. You said whatever the next Evil Bong movie is. And I looked at our list and I said, well, it's the crossover. And I almost made the fatal flaw of combining this with the fourth Evil Bong movie. I am thankful that I did not do that because one, I don't know if I could have in the same sitting, forced myself to sit through another 80 minutes of this. But I do think that there is enough to justify an entire episode here. And so I'm curious. I know Steve's curious. Our fans are curious. You picked this one, and these are usually, except for last time, Corinne Halbert, who did Acid Nun, who did Evil Bong 2 and 3, picked those also. I feel like most people see them on the list and avoid them. So I would love to know, like, what your history with these movies is.
So it's so funny. This is my first full Evil Bong movie I've ever watched.
Oh, so you just went for it.
I just went for it. I smoke a lot of weed, and they're not good. There's not really any good stoner horror, and I really wanted an excuse to watch an Evil Bong movie, because as a stoner, I feel as if I needed to watch at least one, and I'm so glad it was this one because I got I got caught up on everything, and then also got to be really confused. Like, not even, I don't think confused is the right word, because I was just like never really sure what was happening to begin with. But you know what? I had a great time. It's not a good movie at all. It's weirdly racist, but boy. I did in fact have a blast and laughed really loud, and I smoked a big joint while I watched it. So I had a great time. I'm sorry that you guys hate these movies. I had a blast. So you're gonna have my ass being like, "This is so fun and stupid."
No, that's good. We need that. We need somebody to tip the scales a little bit, and like kind of rein us in, because I learned something about myself as it pertains to these Full Moon Features franchises as I was watching this, which is I am way more into the Ginger Dead Man, and I'm way more charitable with all of the Ginger Dead Man
stuff. Why? I'm curious because he was so annoying, but I think it's a white woman who voices the evil Bong, and she sounds like a black woman, and I really don't.
I think she might be a black woman.
I think she is a person.
Oh, is she black? Is she okay?
I believe so. Yeah.
I've been very cursory Google. I wasn't sure. Okay.
She is a
never know.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, but
I was going to say another goddamn white woman putting on a black scent for entertainment purposes. Okay, well that's better.
That's the one way in which this movie is not directly racist. But that's really we're being charitable. I think the reason not to speak for Jared, but I think the reason that I kind of glommed on to Ginger Dead Man a little bit more than Evil Bong. And to be clear, I think those movies are largely pretty repellent, but we both kind of got on board with Ginger Dead Man 2, and prepare yourself for the subtitle, The Passion of the Crust. We both got on board with that movie because that movie, in between the incredibly crass humor and violent cookie-related murders, is a satire on Full Moon films and on Charles Band in particular, like a surprisingly cutting one.
Yeah.
Dave Photos in it playing himself. A lot of other people are like pop up and kind of do little appearances, and they make a lot of jokes about how cheap these movies have gotten and how pathetic, and we used to make real movies. And it's weirdly introspective for a cookie movie. And I think the fact that was snuck into that movie made us 10% more charitable towards the Ginger Dead Man than Evil Bong, which is never rising above what it's setting out to do.
I love this conversation already because I love horror people. We're just like, this is how I dissect the different killer inanimate object franchises, and it's legit. I just love it. It's incredible.
This is our show.
I love horror podcasts. It's so good. I love it. And you guys are so steeped in this shit too. Like, you watch. I can only imagine the garbage. I can't imagine, actually, because I've looked at your podcast feed and listened to it. The garbage you've watched.
It's like, I looked at your podcast and it's garbage.
Yeah.
Well,
I look.
Just the things you have to put yourself through. You're heroes.
Well, they're very charitable, It's like, and also a lot of the people who work on these movies, which is another reason why I think I might have watched this one with a little bit more good grace, because like a lot of the people who work on these movies, I mean, they know what movie they're making. Nobody is under the impression that they're really doing something particularly like interesting or impactful. It's just kind of like, let's churn another one of these out and maybe make a quick buck, which I can see as being a pretty cynical approach to filmmaking, but like I don't really mind it as much, because Steve and I have developed this philosophy of meeting a lot of these movies where they are, except for like occasionally something will happen, and not to get too far ahead in terms of like stuff narratively that happens in this movie, but there is a moment, and I texted Steve this yesterday, where 22 minutes and 30 seconds into this movie, something happened that made me actually yell the word no at the screen.
And I didn't even need the time code. I think I know exactly what you're...
Yeah, and to give you a little bit of context, Mary Beth, what it is when they're standing in the head shop, which, by the way, like, dick head shop, like, it's funny. It's not that clever, but it got a smirk out of me.
Yeah.
But they're standing around in the shop, and all of a sudden a character walks in wearing a pig nose. Now, this character is a character named Hambo, and he is a character in one of the hardest sits that Steve and I had so far on the show, which is the movie Ooga Booga, which our episode, we released these pretty far. We record pretty far in advance, and this was our most recent episode to have dropped as of this recording. Now, that was going to be about 6 or 7 weeks ago at this point. But that character, and then if you're wondering why there is an Asian man holding a steering wheel, with large comical Mickey Rooney sized comic oversized teeth in his mouth. He is the prototype for what would become this figurine or badass doll, as they're called in the movie, where that design of that guy holding the steering wheel is just a racist doll that a guy created in a racist doll toy line. And the name of that doll literally is just an Asian slur that starts with a G.
Yeah. I did not need that origin story. I did not need to see where the pig-based farmer clown character from Ooga Booga came up for his line of racist figurines that I think Full Moon was briefly trying to make a thing, and I think the Full Moon fan base immediately rejected that one. They're just like, no, I think we're good.
Yeah. When you make an extended universe, you give like backstory, you give lore to all of these things, and I think assume sometimes that like people will be interested in knowing the ins and outs of any character, and I just can't imagine anyone who wants to know the lore of Hambo and the lore of the Badass Dolls toy line. When that scene happened, when Hambo walked in, I yelled at my TV. I was just like, this is too fresh a wound. I don't want to look at Hambo anymore.
Ooga Booga looks like a crime against humanity.
There's a lot of that going on in that.
Sorry. I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but just looking at the pictures, I don't love what I'm seeing.
That movie is about as far as Full Moon has ever gone to try and just kind of like be really edgelordy and really, and that's why I think we struggle with this era of Full Moon where Gingerdead Man, Evil Bong, and Ooga Booga are kind of the dominating forces of it, because this is what I call the Spencer's Gifts era of Full Moon. This is the frat boy era of Full Moon. And if I might peel the curtain back a tiny bit and just give some context for this movie today, I lost my job today and then immediately rolled into watching Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong. So I'm in a weird headspace. Not funny, with this
but
one.
That's so.
You can laugh at it.
That is just a. I'm so sorry. That contrast of things of being like, cool. I guess I'm gonna watch this disaster.
No, see, you guys have it wrong. You have it wrong. Steve lost his job. He was really upset. And then Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong just George Bailey'd him into rethinking how important life is.
It was
now here he is. Yes. He's recording with us.
Soothed my soul. A plasticine cookie with a human mouth projected over it showed me the errors of my ways, showed me what the world would be like without me. No, I just wanted to give that context for like, if I don't know, it just like a kind of surreal day in my life that like I was a newspaper editor this morning and now I am not. And in the interim, I watched Evil Bong versus Gingerdead Man. And now
happy holidays.
And, And so I think I'm feeling very happy that you got something out of this, Mary Beth, and that you had a good time watching this. Like, I feel like that's validating a lot of things for me. I'm like, okay, all right. If nothing else today, we gave you the occasion to watch something that made you giggle and gave you a memorable experience at the very least. So.
You did. And like I told you off air, I was taking photos of the screen and the captions like it was a concert, sending it to people, being like, "Hi guys, I'm going to be on a podcast talking about this movie. It's on Tubi. You should watch it." So I was a walking marketing campaign for Full Moon. And then I was like, "Should I recommend this movie?" And I was like, "Nah, we all know what Full Moon is. I think we at this point like." All my stoner friends who are into horror kind of know what to expect, so they're ready for whatever.
Yeah, I guess I was curious, like, I think because we both struggle a little bit with stoner humor, and I am, I'm not opposed to, hitting a blinky from apparently what the kids call it these days from time to time.
Hitting the blinker,
not opposed to it myself, but I think there is something about stoner comedy, like even when it's done well, that I kind of bump against, because I think a good stoner comedy is something like Big Lebowski, which sort of like captures sort of the feeling of what it's like to be high and not the broad Cheech and Chong version of what is presented to the media of what it's like being high. being high is not sitting around and like saying, dude, man, munchies and stuff like that. It's a sense of detachment from the surreality of your life around you, and a sense that you're kind of like traveling through things and just having this experience, whether you're directly influencing them or not. And I feel like this movie and this franchise falls on that negative end of the spectrum, where it is just like giggle, giggle, munchies. And then they just kind of put a lot of like stoner and fart humor. All that being said, I had an easier time watching this movie than I did the previous 3 Evil Bong movies. I'm not saying that I'm seeing a huge uptick in quality, but I'm saying if you're looking at a graph and it's like largely flatlining, there's a little bit of a tick here. And I can't really explain why. I think part of it is just, I think that it's fairly short. It's pretty breezy, and it's got enough motion. It's got enough forward motion to kind of like keep me, if not thrilled about what I'm watching, at least it's moving. At least it's entertaining.
Yeah. And like, there's not a lot of good stoner horror. Trim Season by Ariel Lita is like one of the best, is one of the only ones, I think.
Mhm.
And it's also really good. I like that movie a lot. But the thing with stoner horror is, and I knew it was Evil Bong, it's like, it's a bunch of guys who have never smoked weed before in their lives.
That's
laughing about poking, bruh. Like, it's like, was like farting in a Corvette or something. Hold on, what was the line I recorded? Yeah,
you got half of it.
Yeah, like watching these guys in a head shop talk about weed and then put that gas mask bong on, and then the smoke comes out from under them, not from the mask. I was guffawing because it's just like such a tenuous grasp on what it means to like be in a head shop, or like what it means to smoke weed. And that cracked me up, because like, as someone who frequents dispensaries and like smokes a lot of weed, it's just so funny that these movies continue to just be like, yeah, they all have zits on their faces and are just like gross dudes, when it's like, no, it's actually just like everyone. And also, those aren't bongs, those are hookah pipes. But like, okay, go off.
Right. Yeah.
I
think Charles Band like has said that he doesn't really partake very much, you know. And
Wow,
I think
you never know.
it's kind of obvious.
It just seems so authentic.
You never, so natural, the way these guys smoke sorry, not bongs,
water pipe. Yes, exactly. But he did kind of make this franchise sort of his like pet project throughout this era, and like there's kind of a snarky moment. So our guiding text on the show, Mary Beth, is Dave J's book. It Came from the Video Aisle, which is a really comprehensive oral history of Full Moon. It's really great. And he makes a kind of little snarky comment about how like Charles Band insists this is a hit franchise. So he's kind of being a little snarky about it, like saying that like he's really trying to make fetch happen, when maybe necessarily we're not all on board with it. I will also say, though, when we were talking, I just looked up stoner comedy or stoner horror, and the first movie that comes up is Evil Bong. So he has cornered the market, if nothing else.
And that's what's so frustrating. Like, because I don't think I'd ever watched an Evil Bong movie, really, because I was like, this is not stoner horror. Like, this is someone who I just from seeing the design, I was like, that's a hookah pipe, and like, that's fine, whatever. But like, this is someone who has no idea and is just going to make a stupid stoner.
Well, Mary Beth, if I may, to pull a line of dialogue from this movie to bring you up to speed on the 3 Evil Bong movies that preceded this one that you watched with us. It sucked the first time, really blew the second time, and the third time was total butt vomit.
There you go. Yeah. That kind of
true.
Yeah, the poet of our ages.
And good thing that the first, I think, what was it, like 25 minutes of the movie is just a clip show from the other Evil Bong movies.
Yeah, and we even get a little bit of a clip show of the first Gingerdead Man movie, although this one was choosing to ignore the second 2 movies in the franchise. It's just kind of jumping as a direct sequel to the first movie and ignoring the 2 that came in between it.
Okay. Again, I didn't do my research. I just saw that I knew that Gary Busey was in one of them, and I was like, this, I don't understand the chronology here, because we got a 2-second clip show versus like a 45-minute, not 45, like 15 to 20-minute clip show. So he really didn't go in hard on the Gingerbread Man.
They went light on it.
3 bare-chested women following him everywhere.
He sure does. Yeah, yeah. All three of them were kind of staples of the Full Moon canon at the time. I saw Masawimi Max and a few other.
You know what?
There are
your
a
bag,
handful
guys.
of
Get your
of
bag.
women who were free to kind of show up and drop a cameo here. But this is another good showcase for Robin Sidney. We love Robin, the Queen of Full Moon. She is Mrs. Charles Band, and she's been in a ton of these movies. Gingerdead Man was her first Full Moon movie, where she was playing the character of Sarah Lee. Get it? And then she became a recurring character in the Evil Bong movies, Leanne. And there's a fun Luann, excuse me. And then there's a fun little meta
Steve,
moment.
I'm sorry, I owe you one nut punch for saying that name.
Yeah, and I deserve it too for mentioning Luann or Leanne. I already forget what it is.
Luann.
But she, there's a fun little meta moment where they get to have that crossover, you know, where like the Robin's Gingerdead Man character is much more reserved and kind of like a normal person, and the Evil Bong version is very over the top. We commented on it a lot. Like a lot of the cast in those movies kind of leave her dangling because she's putting so much more energy into the performances than anybody else around her, you know? So it's kind of a James Franco and Anne Hathaway at the Oscars kind of situation where like one of them is trying too hard and everyone else is not trying enough. You know, so that's always kind of unfair, but Steve, it's fun to watch these two like bounce off each other in this one goofy scene.
I think you were saying how you're not sure why you had an easier sit with this movie than with the other Evil Bong movies. And I think the reason is because you get a lot of time spent with Rabbit in this one, and you get no time with Alistair, Bachman, or Brett, who are just other idiots walking around saying monkey all the time.
Yeah, it seems like we lost a bunch of side characters in this one, which was great because I really just wanted to punch Rabbit in the remaining teeth that he had, not to be disrespectful to people with dental issues, but Jesus Christ. I did love that he got turned into a doobie at one point. That made me fucking laugh.
Yeah, that was in Evil Bong 2, King Bong, I believe.
Yeah,
King Bong, baby.
Rabbit is if you're interested in learning the lore of the Evil Bong series, Rabbit is the one, I think Rabbit and Robin Sidney's characters are the two characters that exist throughout the entire franchise. They're the only ones who will make it all the way through now, right? There's 9 of them, including this one. 9. Yeah. So it's 8 standalone Evil Bongs and this one. So there's a lot of us. There's a lot. That's why we said, like, we're glad you brought this up because we keep sort of pushing these movies off a little bit. Yeah. And this is motivating us to like keep that fire going. It's also like for the nerd in me, canonically, we are, or like chronologically, we are in the right place for both Gingerdead Man and Evil Bong series. Like where we were. The 4th Evil Bong movie. This is the 4th Gingerdead Man movie. We've covered the first 3 for each. So I can calm my ADHD down for at least that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, as annoying as it is, at least Sonny Carl Davis playing Rabbit has some kind of like energy, and like
true, very true.
I enjoy watching him kind of go big and over the top because, all right, so we watched a movie. At this point, it would have been a couple of months ago that the episode came out, called Dr. Moreau's House of Pain. And in that movie, John Patrick Jordan, who plays Larnell in this movie, is
Larnell
what
is that? Anyway,
he's the lead in this. One of the leads in this other movie, and he plays this kind of down on his luck boxer in the 40s, or I think it's 40s or early 50s, who stumbles upon this weird lair of malignant doctor and man-made creatures and stuff. And it got me to thinking how once he did that first Evil Bong movie, like a year later, he never like left the role of Larnell to the point where it's just a non-performance at this point. Like I feel like he brought his wardrobe from home. Yeah. Like was like, well, this is what I'm wearing. Like no care is given to anything else. Like no disrespect to John Patrick Jordan as a person. Like he's shown us in another movie, like he can play characters. But I genuinely think aside from that movie, all I've seen him in has been Evil Bong movies since then, playing the character of Larnell. And he literally doesn't have to do anything in the performance except for make the occasional bro pun.
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't have a whole lot to do. I just realized we never did the intro or the stats for this movie. I should tell us a little bit about the release date and the cast and everything like that. So
Sure.
Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong. This was released October 29th, 2013. It's directed by Charles Band. It's written by Kent Rudebush. And our stars here are John Patrick Jordan, Robin Sidney, Sonny Carl Davis, Peter Donald Badalamenti II, here just credited as The Dawn. Amy Paffrath, Chance Reardon, Ryan Curry, Victoria Levine, and with the voices of Michelle Mays, John Carius, Michael A. Shepard, and Robert Ramos. Now, according to Wikipedia, which means gigantic grain of salt, William Butler, who has kind of been like sort of the Full Moon second in command for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to necessarily project that on him. I don't know the hierarchy, but he's been heavily involved with Full Moon for a while. He's one of those guys who's just kind of touched like every corner of the horror industry. He wanted to continue with the Ginger Dead Man franchise, and his idea was to push it even further by having Gingy attack Santa Claus at his North Pole workshop. Sounded fun, but Charles Band put the kibosh on that idea. Butler left to work on other projects, and Band decided to fold this character into the Evil Bong universe. And since Butler was no longer involved, he had previously been doing the voice of Ginger Dead Man in the absence of Gary Busey. And so he ceded the duties to Robert Ramos, who took over here. John Carius is providing the up-close mouth movements of the characters that are like kind of projected onto the doll. Now, this is the second movie that we've covered that featured a limited edition breakfast cereal tie-in. And once again, you can find this breakfast cereal for $100 on eBay, and it is probably stale as hell. But this one was like, they did like a double-sided art box on this one, similar to like the Nintendo Power cereal system, if anybody remembers that one. But the two cereals that were going on here were Nookie Crisp and Wheaties. Although there was really only one type of cereal in the box. It was all the Cookie Crisp style cereal. But that was how they packaged the DVD. They did this with Unlucky Charms as well, appropriately enough. So if anybody is interested in picking up of these stale-ass boxes of cereal, you can find them on eBay for close to $100.
And I have to ask, because we don't get the opportunity to very often on a show like this, both I'll throw this to both of you. General thoughts on Cookie Crisp as a cereal?
I don't know. You know, I haven't revisited it in a while. I do find that I've had less of a taste for sugary cereals lately. I picked up a box of that Stranger Things cereal. It's like a waffly cereal with marshmallows in it, and I was immediately just kind of overwhelmed by that. I'm like, ooh, this sounds good. And then I ate it. I'm like, no, this is not good.
Yeah, I lived in one of those households where sugary cereal was not allowed. And I always I always wanted it, and then I tried Cookie Crisp, and it just tasted fake. So I'm more of a Lucky Charm. I'm more of like just give me the Lucky Charms with like the marshmallow and the cereal pieces. Like you don't need to try to be like Cinnamon Toast Crunch is as far as I'll go with like trying to be something. You know what I mean? Like the cookies, it's just not good. Cinnamon Toast Crunch fine. But I also just like I don't have as big of a sweet tooth as my husband, and he loves sugary cereal, and I just like I don't have it. I think maybe it's my upbringing of just not eating. I'm like I like Raisin Bran. So I'm one of those.
I'm kind of that. I'm a Crispix with a chopped up banana in it. That's me. It's really good.
If I'm gonna eat cereal, it's all about staying regular. That's it.
Hey,
that's what you want.
Hey, you know what?
We're in our 40s. We gotta keep them bowels moving. Yeah.
Get that fiber moving through us.
Yeah,
I don't eat sugary cereal anymore either. But I will say I had a top three that were my go-to for them, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch is one of them, because I did think as sugary as sweet as it was, I loved it. My other two were Frosted Mini Wheats because I like that.
Yes.
The little like white sugar on one side, and then my all-time favorite cereal. I hope you're taking notes, listeners. It was Cinnamon Life.
Oh, okay. I can fuck with that. I can fuck with some Cinnamon Life.
That's so good. And
I'm about that Cinnamon Life.
It's like soggy, but it's not too.
Yeah, and then like the sugar from it crystallizes in the milk as it like melts. Yeah, a bowl of Cinnamon Life was a good time. I had a friend. He's still my friend, but we used to talk. That was the thing we would like wax nostalgic about together. It was like, oh man, remember eating Cinnamon Life? Those were the conversations that we had.
Those were the days.
Yeah, and that was about as far as I went with that. I was never really that big, but similarly, like what you say, like we all have households where things aren't really allowed. My biggest one is soda. I grew up in a house where like nobody drank soda.
Mm.
And
Yep.
so like I never developed a taste for for a
Same.
Coke. Like someone would be like, oh my God, I just really need like a Coke right now. And I'm like, ew.
See, and that's so funny because I did this opposite thing where like my mom always had diet soda in the house, no regular. And so I drank diet soda forever. And now I won't touch it. I will only drink regular. And now that I'm out of the house and grown up, my mom buys regular soda for my brothers. And let me tell you, I do give her crap about it. And I said, well, when I was here.
Yeah. Where was this? Where was this?
Oldest kid syndrome.
That's
I
the
moved
thing.
out and
Oldest
all
kid.
the cool stuff came in. What do you mean?
Oldest kid, you're figuring it out. Youngest kid, it's like, all right, yeah, whatever. Let him go eat glass. Like I understand now the kids are resilient. So either way, what do we think about the cookies? What do we think about cookies in this movie? Are we pro? Are we thinking these are sexy looking cookies? Are these attractive, appealing looking cookies? Because I think they look like they're glazed with mustard.
They just like, well, Rabbit first eats it. It's just like, and they're all just like sex. That's a sexy looking cookie. And I was like, I'm stoned, but like I'm not that stoned. That cookie looks disgusting, and that man is inhaling it like he has like his life depends on it. And I was like, oh, are they edibles? Like I kind of assumed that there would be like a tie-in, like, oh, it's an edible.
You would think.
No, it's not. She hates weed for some fucking reason. Like she makes comments about it being bad later.
Just for contrast, I guess. Yeah.
I guess, but also I have to mention after the incredibly racist scene, this scene of a man humping assaulting an extended assault sequence with the cookies that I was almost like, I don't know if I actually can recommend this to people because this is pretty this is pretty fucked up. Like it was bad. That part I was like,
well,
yeah.
So we've been.
And it kept going.
It sure does.
Going.
I mean, these bits in this movie do not know when to end, and that is, I can attribute that now, and I think we kind of figured this out a while back. But Mary Beth, this may shock you, but this is the same screenwriter as Ooga Booga. Ken Rudabush is someone who no disrespect to him personally. We just our sensibilities don't align. Like,
no.
I figured it.
Like we've encountered a lot of movies written by him, and there's been a few times where it's like, okay, this juvenile comedy sort of works and these puns sort of work. I would say it's probably best in like Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bowl-orama 2.
Oh, I actually heard good things about that movie.
Yeah, no, there's some fun stuff. Yeah,
for what it is.
Shout out to friend of the show, Brink Stevens, directed that one. Yeah, she's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's
and he looks exactly like what I thought he would look like. Sorry to put
and you know what?
Old
I'm glad
white
you did that.
man.
Exactly.
Of course.
Yeah, I think who
has never smoked weed in his life or probably done a drug. And like it tells me so much about these people. And like I know I'm projecting like too much like gender politics onto a fucking full moon movie, but like
that's what we're here for.
The fact that you just want to like on top of just racist caricatures in 2013, it wasn't that long ago, you want to assault a woman and like think it's a funny comedic sequence where like a guy essentially like assaults her and comes because she's leeching. Like that is just egregious.
This is I think the big thing I struggle with these movies and with this kind of sense of humor is that so much of it feels like it's informed by Playboy, by Benny Hill, by like that 70s late or mid 70s late 60s kind of like dirty comic strip sort of mentality where like horny old men are funny, like, or they're mischievous and harmless. And I'm like, no, horny old men are gross. And like if you're trying to make your movie sexy or funny in any way, having like a creepy old guy like rubbing his junk on a bakery window or having Sonny Carl Davis like slowly and sumptuously shove a yellow cookie in his mouth, like you're not. I don't think this movie's intending to be arousing or exciting, but like the fact that the characters are reacting to this stuff as if it's sexy or arousing or funny, it's just immediately like, okay, well, I'm just not. We have no common ground.
And I could be completely wrong about this. And if you are a listener who knows the answer to this, feel free to correct me. puppetmasterscastlefreaks@gmail.com. There is a moment during that assault scene, or for lack of a better description, where it cuts to her reaching and him sort of like leaning forward. But then there is a cut where it looks like the joke is supposed to be that she's touching him. Like it looks like her hand comes out further than the display. And I'm like, well, clearly there's glass in front of it because it's pastries. And then it cuts back again. And the last shot of it, when he backs away, you can see the reflections in the glass. But I'm pretty sure there's an insert shot there where there's no covering on the front and her hand is somehow coming past where the glass would be. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
And if I'm wrong about that, if there's not actually, if that doesn't actually happen, if it's just an angle or something, like I'm more than happy to say I was wrong about that. But I watched it. I feel like I even rewound it too and was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Is the implication that he's rubbing himself on the display on the glass, or is the implication that he's getting her to reach to touch him? Because that's what it looks like, but then that doesn't make any sense at all.
And there's just no good answer to that. Like
that was essentially where I landed. It's like, it doesn't really matter. But
yeah.
It's like dirty old man humor needs to burn. And like I'm okay with like stupid fart humor. Like there's a place for it. I will laugh at a fart. I'll laugh at a poop joke. But like, look at the old man assaulting women. It's funny because he's old and doesn't know. It's like, no, I've been in her position with old men being disgusting to me at restaurants. And let me tell you, it makes you really hate everyone.
I can believe it.
It's just like, again, I know it's just like old men making movies, but it's just like, we can tell them no on some things. Like we could just, that scene had nothing to do with the movie. It has nothing to do with the story. That character never comes back. And then it just like establishes nothing really. Honestly, it establishes nothing.
And there's so much, so much of this just feels like humor that has, that's bygone. Like by 2013, so much of this humor is already dead. Same with the idea of like, just trotting out random topless women. Like that doesn't really have the effect that it did in movies in the 80s when like the internet didn't exist and when we all weren't kind of inured to it. Like we're not really amplifying anything. We're not being shocking. We're not being particularly provocative. Like I saw 10 dirtier things on Game of Thrones, like right before nothing shocking here is happening.
Well, it's like, look, their titties are out. Isn't that crazy? And it's like,
can you believe it?
I guess, but like, I don't know, maybe just like find out something funnier than just like, look, I'm a queer woman. I love titties, but like that, I don't know. I know what they're doing. And also it's just like, someone can tell them you can still make these stupid movies and just have them dial it back. But I guess it's not full moon if you're not pissing someone off. I don't know.
I think that informs Kent Rudabush's writing a little bit. I think it's partially that. And again, I'm not trying to like come out and disrespect him personally. Like we've never met. He could be a nice person, but I just feel like what he's channeling here just does not respond. Well, I don't respond to it. Doesn't like resound with me. Like I don't vibe with like the nature of the way he writes typically. And it's like a mixture of like feeling like you obviously have to push the envelope, but also like thinking you have a grasp on stuff that's going to hit with like younger cultures. It's like he's like that, teacher who walks into the room and turns their chair backwards and sits down and is like,
it's the Steve Buscemi meme, like, hello, my fellow kids. Like, like one of the lines I wrote down was like, Larnell said that was like getting finger blasted in my asshole with razor blades. Like that is how middle schoolers talked when I was in middle school. Like I grew up, like it's so obviously written by someone who like did bare minimum research about like how young people talk and just like make it like inherently homophobic or like weird, like not even meaning to, but like all the asshole stuff. Like they're so obsessed with like fucking each other in the ass and like touching each other's buttholes and like bad things happening to my butthole. And I'm like, okay, guys, like we gotta move past the butthole. The butthole
crunching
joke.
nuts.
I will give them
See,
the tiniest.
Crunch some nuts. Come on, guys. Move just like a couple of inches forward. Crunch the nuts.
I will give them the tiniest little flowers for writing off two of the most annoying characters in the series in a nice way by making them like a loving gay couple who moved to San Francisco. Like, yes, broad stereotype, but you know what? That's fine. Like, it wasn't judgmental. It sounds look, they realized it was always there, and they acted on it, and they're happy, and they're not going to be in these movies anymore.
I don't think the intentionality is to write something that's like outwardly racist or outwardly offensive. I just think it's just like, someone, you know, is like operating their Jeep Wrangler in the middle of like a lake. It's just like they're not
exactly. I think this is just like old dudes thinking they're funny. Like, I definitely don't feel like, I mean, I don't really want to know their politics, and that's okay. Like, I don't need to know their politics at all. But it definitely just feels like old guys thinking they're funny rather than like.
And a byproduct of that is that it gets real sweaty. Like, every line, like sort of predictable line of dialogue just gets so sweaty, and to the point where like, it's almost like these lines of dialogue happen because you just know they have to, but they don't necessarily make sense. An example I have is like when Rabbit first appears and he's like, "It's good to see you, Larnell." And Larnell's like, "No, it's not. I said I didn't want to see you again as long as I live." And then String has his switchblade out and goes, "Easily arranged."
Yeah. Like,
and it's like, wait, you're going to kill Larnell?
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
It's implied that he killed the two guests earlier too, because his knife is covered in blood. Like, weird character for him to just kind of like die off screen, getting a bong through his neck. But he takes up a lot of real estate in this. I do want to comment on one thing Mary Beth said that just kind of occurred to me. I have never once in the history of the show thought about what the politics of Charles Band are, and it's not that I'm not thinking about it. It's that he does not have a political bent in his movies whatsoever. Would you say that's accurate? Like, I would say his belief structure is entirely like, I want to put on a show. Like, I think that is the beginning and end of what he believes in and cares about. Like, he's a very apolitical filmmaker to like a wild degree, in a way that I just really did not think about. Possibly to a fault, because then when you get movies like this, your question like, oh, is he racist? And to be clear, I don't think he is. I think he was buying into this kind of South Parky sort of like button pushy frat boy humor, and it just doesn't work.
It's just like it's almost like, but like the thing that really got me with this caricature of these two Japanese, but then they play like music that seems like it's from China, so obviously they're just saying if they're Asian.
And I believe they are Chinese actors, so it's
the prosthetic teeth is such like, to me, that to me is so signally to me that like, you're doing something kind of fucked up though. Like, you put in the teeth at people, and like that was a signal to me a little bit, not just the whole racism thing, but like, you're taking something that people have removed from history as like a caricature that white people wore, and you're putting it in an Asian person's mouth. Like, that to me, that makes me like, ooh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. That one is just like,
well, so for a little background for you, Mary Beth, in the movie Ooga Booga, like where Steve and I kind of landed on it was that it was a really
Ooga Booga. I'm sorry, but like, I
want to punch myself in the balls every time I say it out loud.
Crush nuts.
Like, I want to crush these nuts every time I have to say Ooga Booga. No, I think, we landed on the fact that believe it or not, like, the movie is trying to say something about race relations, but it's done in such a tone-deaf way where you can look at it like, I kind of understand the intentionality behind it, but there is a lot of thought that wasn't given to context. And we talked about how
not the right people to be doing a movie like that, I don't think.
Exactly, which was where we landed. Right. And then it was like the same thing with that stereotype character. It was like, okay, so it's kind of an origin of where did this design for this badass doll thing. We landed where we thought maybe the implication was supposed to be that the character Hambo obviously is terrible, and people who would be interested in owning these badass dolls are inherently bad people. The movie kind of skirts around coming right out and saying that, and it does try to bring up a story about like police brutality and systemic racism, but in a way where it's like, yeah, these are not the people who should be handling this story. And I think, like, you know, for as pioneering as Charles Band has been through a lot of these things, he's always been about, how should I say this? Not, you know, we call these exploitation movies, but I wouldn't say exploiting people, especially exploiting trends. Sure. It's always been about, like, you know, the future and moving forward in terms of like how revolutionary he was with the home video market and then getting Full Moon up and running at full. I genuinely think, like, and this is not to excuse some of the things that then end up coming out. One, he's an older man, so his sensibilities probably differ from ours, generally speaking. But also, I think the attitude with the studio is sort of like, you know, he has a guy in Ken Rudabush that he trusts, and it's kind of like, oh, you want to make, he has a story credit, but it's only because he sort of created the first ones. It's almost like I wouldn't be shocked if it was like, okay, go make another one of these. Oh, we're going to do a crossover this time, and is not particularly involved in the process of the filmmaking because he's already moved on to like what's the next thing. So there's probably not that tight overseeing of like of what's out there narratively and actually hitting the shelves. Not to excuse it, but I do think, you know, he is apolitical, maybe in 2025 in this conversation, like Mary Beth said, maybe to a fault. And also, like, sorry to cough for a second there. He's apolitical almost to a fault, and it's really about like just keeping the machine running and keep staying working and churning movies out. I don't think, you know, something like this, as cynical as it sounds, maybe it's like, well, I know there's GingerDead Man toys and Evil Bong toys that I can put out with these, and it's like, that's really the bottom line is sort of all he is probably concerned about with these. I don't really consider this a passion project of any kind.
Yeah. I think that's what gets kind of frustrating to me, just as like a queer indie female filmmaker. And like, yeah, this is not to discount what Charles Band has done for the genre.
Sure.
Like, I absolutely understand that. I think it's just so frustrating from like my perspective to just see like how hard it is to get like original, like I've been told, you know, no one wants queer storytelling and you can't, and like you have to do this and that, and it's like being watered down. And then these guys, and like to a degree, they have built something for themselves so they can do that. So like I do respect that. But it's like, I think there's a frustration in 2025 where like I do understand like films like this have their place, and I had fun watching it, but it also from just like a filmmaking and a perspective from like a small, like from someone like me, it's just like, fuck, these guys can just like write this shit, get it made, and like make some money off of it. Like, ugh, like why can't other people get those opportunities now? And I know like, again, it's complicated, and at the same time, it's not. And I think like they're fun movies. I get it. I think just like looking at how many of these movies there are and seeing this, I'm like, God damn, like there are so many other people who have cool stories that aren't just like playing with like assault as a joke. And like, I mean, this goes on for the entire film industry. I'm like ranting about this, but like I think there is a frustration that comes from that kind of thing. We're like, yeah, it's fun. And like I do enjoy it, but at the same time, like what does this say about our industry from like a filmmaking perspective? And like, doesn't he use AI now too in a bunch of
he does. That's something we also kind of wrestle with, you know, and because and
that's not just about you guys. It's just like he's using AI, and it's just like, I don't know. And I know that he's been around for a while and has these series, but it's just, I think, frustrating from a filmmaking perspective to be like, these guys can just make these jokes and like make offensive shit. And yeah, they probably don't make that much money off of it. I get it, but it's still like frustrating in that way.
And did you suspect that you would be dissecting any of these issues when you agreed to appear on a podcast about Evil Bong versus GingerDead Man?
I honestly did think that though, because I was like, I'm gonna
Good.
be annoying and probably bring this up. Like I was like, I'm gonna be so annoying and be like,
Oh,
no, we're
please
gonna get
do.
to the gender politics and like the industry shit with this. God damn it!
Literally, this is what we do. We get so deep and
Like
so weird in
it's
some of
so,
these. Yeah.
and you exactly like on their face value, they're fun. Like it's on Tubi. They probably made this for what, like $5,000, maybe a little bit more than that, whatever. And I
They
get,
shook
I
a
was thinking,
couch. Yeah.
I
They
made a
went through
joke.
some couch cushions.
I made a joke about I think was it Robin who's married to Charles Band. I'm like, get your bag, girlfriend, even though that bag probably isn't that big. Like it's like there's like something I admire about what they're doing and something I despise about it, which I'm assuming why you guys do this podcast. And like I now deeply understand like the allure of being like, I'm so impressed, and also like, why the fuck is this still happening? You know what I mean? It's fascinating.
We run into it's funny. I always wonder what people's basic thoughts are on Charles Band and Full Moon. So we talk in circles where we talk about doing the show, where we've met big Full Moon fans, and they really love certain franchises and certain movies, and they appreciate the fact that we're even spending the time having these conversations. And then there's other people who you bring it up and they don't really have much of a frame of reference. They might be like, oh yeah, he's the Puppet Master guy, or like something like that. But the problem, not problem, I mean, we're here, we're completists. We're here for the long haul. We're doing it all. But for every one of these movies, you find something that they do cheaply and quickly that really works. And there are a lot of movies that there have been some real hidden surprises on the show that we've encountered, where it's like, oh, this is a very, very low budget movie. This movie was that came together over the course of 2 weeks from concept to principal photography to being edited and then on shelves. Like I think this was one of them that like hit from the start of production to hitting this Full Moon streaming, which was a thing that he was sort of revolutionizing at that time.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, and that was how he was getting this out there and did it so quickly. And even within that, even in this era, there are some of the movies where they're products of their time, and they're products of being made by people maybe who are a little bit out of touch, but there is a gem in there. And there's also a lot of really good films that we've covered that are from the earlier period of Full Moon as well. So it's always really interesting to like think what kind of opinion and attitude people had towards the company. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people who think every movie that they put out is Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong.
Well, can I ask you a quick question? Like,
yeah, of course.
Charles Band doesn't direct all of these, obviously. So, like, does he give platforms to like indie? Because it's like obviously like Slimerama, a woman directed that. Like, is there a trend of him like giving people giving these people platforms? Like, I'm like not super familiar with all of their stuff, so like it seems like he might also do that a little bit. I don't know, but I don't know how that. Again, this is very cursory kind of observation.
He has his crew for sure. He definitely has like a lot of people he's worked with, but we've had a lot of filmmakers on the show like Danny Draven and people like that who did get they were like fresh out of film school, like, worked as PAs, just got some real kind of boots on the ground sort of filmmaking experience and got to direct their own films. And like, I think he does show a lot of loyalty to people he works for. There's not not necessarily a pipeline that I've seen to like mainstream filmmaking success from. I mean, there's obviously go on to do a lot of the Hallmark movies, which are hugely profitable, and lots of lots of people work in TV, but like there's not really one like, it's not like a Roger Corman giving like opportunities to Bogdanovich and Scorsese and like guys like that. Like we don't really have that same pipeline, but we do have, people who start out in the industry this way.
Cool.
So yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, I do have to get going. Sorry. I'm so sorry to have to cut you off because I'm having a blast digging into. Like we were saying at the
beginning, getting too into this movie. Too much to say about this fucking movie. Sorry.
We said at the beginning, we're gonna go over an hour with Evil Bong versus Gingerdead Man. I'm like, oh man, okay, yeah, I might actually have to run here. We're delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show and talking about this goofy movie with us. Where can people find you? Where can people read all the cool stuff that you're working on?
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. Thanks for getting me to wax poetic about the state of the horror industry with this movie. You can find me. I am on Instagram at MB as Mary, M as in Mary, B as in Beth, .McAndrews. I'm on Blue Sky at MB McAndrews. I am currently taking a break on things, but follow me on social. You can see updates on stuff. I'm finishing up my book, I finished my book 2026. It'll be out this year. I'm working on some movie projects. So just keep an eye on my socials for updates on all the cool stuff I'm working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you go back and read any of Mary Beth's stuff from Dread Central or anything else that you find, and I'm going to say like retroactively, I'm going ahead into the future to next year. When you have a copy of that Paranormal Activity book in your hand, you're going to love it. I'm just saying right now, everyone's going to have it. If you like what we do on the show from week to week, the best way you can show us is by dropping us a little 5-star rating on whatever podcast catcher you're using. If there is a function to review the show as well, it would be really nice if you could do so. It just helps the show reach a wider audience, say some nice stuff about us, and help us show up in more people's algorithms. If you want to know what we're doing on kind of a week-to-week basis, the best way to follow us is on Instagram at puppetmasters_castlefreaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared. We have audio versions of the show on our YouTube channel, so subscribe to the YouTube channel. A surprising amount of people like to listen to the show that way. And also, we'll be updating on Blue Sky. Occasionally, we'll throw some stuff in the Facebook group. I know we're not super active on there, but it's hard because Steve has a whole other podcast he needs to plug. Steve, what show am I talking about?
Well, you're talking about a show called Cinema Arcade, which is cinema and arcade mashed together. That is what we do. We are talking about movies and then the video game adaptations of those movies to see how crazy they get.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, so we're doing a lot of that. We're watching.
Steve, I'm sorry. I know you have a time crunch, and I have to do this though. Mary Beth just went, "Oh, cool," which begs me to ask, Steve, why are you doing this?
Oh, God
I'm
damn
sorry.
it.
I just have to linger. I think it's the funniest thing ever. Feel free to explain what that.
I had a confrontational Thanksgiving guest who got really upset by the very premise of my podcast, and so if he's listening and wants to know why I do this, it's for that reaction. It's oh cool, because I think it's oh cool. Also, we just wrapped up a whole bunch of Christmas movies, and then we're in January, so we're doing the entire Mummy franchise, the Brendan Fraser version. So we're almost done with that, and then who knows what the rest of the year holds for us. I'm gonna push some Space Jam. I definitely want to be getting up and slamming and jamming now, but we'll figure out how it goes. And you'll want to tune into us next week because oh damn, we have a big fun one for you. Our buddy Aaron Dawn is coming back once again to talk about a piece of mid-'80s cheese that is so beautifully calibrated. It is a comedy called Valet Girls, as in valet parking. So much fun. You can find it on YouTube in incredibly low quality, shot on a potato vision, but it is still pretty great, and I think you'll have a good time with it. And we have a fun time talking to Aaron, as we always do.
Yeah, we sometimes we record. You guys know if you listen, we sometimes record these episodes out of order, and that one's been recorded already. And man, what a treat that movie was! Retroactively calling that a palate cleanser for having to endure the Evil Bong versus GINGERDEAD Man crossover, and so the Valet Girls, super fun. So thank you again to Mary Beth for coming on and talking about this movie with us. I hope it was everything you wanted it to be, since you were receiving the movie with such fanfare. And we will see all of you guys next week for Valet Girls.